What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, another day, another dollar with your boy. We're going to be breaking down our futures contract. I know it's been a little while since we last spoke, been about a month, but towards the end of last month, I just kind of stopped trading for a bit, and then I went on a 2-week vacation, and I just haven't been trading as much, taking some time away from the charts, as we've been on a pretty good grind to the upside. But now some volatility has decided to step back in as we are pulling back some in the markets. So I decided, why not? Let's get on the charts. Let's look at what's been happening over the last month or two. Let's look over the last weeks and the last couple of days, see what's been going on, and then kind of update you guys on what I'm thinking will potentially happen. Obviously, not financial advice. I'm not a professional. This is all educational and for fun purposes, right? We're all here for fun. So let's have some fun. All right. So we're looking at our monthly chart. All right. Looking at our monthly chart. And as you can see, the monthly's been pretty good, pretty healthy over the last year, right? We've been moving up, kind of going from a balanced area to bullish, back to balance to down, back to balance to bullish again, back to balance, and now we're back to bullish again. And when I say those things, when I say balance to bullish to down to balance to bullish, what I mean by that is we came into an area of consolidation, right? We came into a channel or two price points that we chopped around in between. We broke the highs of it, so we began a bullish imbalance to the upside. Then we came back to a balance, meaning we took out a previous month's low, came back into an area of chop, and we took out the lows, creating a bearish imbalance, pushing us lower. Then we came back into a balance, chopped around a little bit longer, came out of balance with a bullish imbalance, right? And then we one time framed up 1, 2, 3, 4 months in a row, meaning we set higher highs, higher lows. And then we pulled back, creating a bit of a balanced area, chopped around for a bit. And now we're back to bullish, right? We came out of balance and we've been one time framing up 1, 2 months, right? Setting higher highs, higher lows, right? Now, with the monthly, our most recent balance area was right here, from 53.58.25 down to 49.91.25. Okay, 49.91.25 was our last balance low. 53.58.25 was our last balance high. Okay, so we've been one time framing up for 2 months, getting good extension above the previous month's high. That's what we've been wanting. So far this month, though, is looking kind of ugly, right? We got really good extension initially above last month's high, right? We got really good extension above June's high, creating higher highs and pushing up to all-time highs. But now we've kind of come back in. Now look at that ugly wick. My end of year target's up here at 59.50. And we were working our way towards that. But in order for us to continue that, or in order for us to get to that target, I think we're going to potentially have to come back into another period of balance and then break out of that, you know, gathering some more troops to go and push this thing higher, back up towards the highs. Or potentially hold this month's low and continue, assuming we don't create lower lows in the last week of trading for this month. Assuming we don't create any lower lows, you know, come next month we hold this month's low and we push back up, grind back up, and continue to set higher highs. That would be the other scenario. All right. Other than that, we may come back into a period of balance, kind of like we did here, where we chopped around for a bit and then broke out of balance again. So monthly is still healthy, even though it looks ugly. All right, we've been one time framing up for the last 2 months. And once again, when I say one time framing up or one time framing down, what I mean by that is we are setting higher highs and higher lows, right? We're not taking out a higher high and then coming back in with a higher or a lower low, right? Here is an example, right? We higher high, then we came in, no higher high, or we came in with a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? So, and then in order to stop that, you have to take out the previous time frames high, right? That applies to all time frames across the board. So that's what I mean when I say that. So hopefully you guys follow along. All right, now let's look at the weekly. So the monthly, pretty healthy, right? This is still our monthly balance zone that we had, right? So far what it looks like is we broke out of balance on the monthly, and then on the weekly we also broke out of balance, and then we've been one time framing up for several weeks in a row now, And then last week, it looks like we had an outside week down, putting us into a balance area. And then this week, it looks like we've come out of balance to the downside, filling a weekly gap, or getting close to filling this weekly gap. Where's my little data box at? A little data box. So we've gotten close to filling this weekly gap. That gap gets filled at 54, 54, 50. A lot of 54s in there. So a lot of 54s. So 54, 50 is where this gap gets filled. Today's low, or so far this week's low, has been 54, 62, 25. So we're just a couple points above that before filling that gap. Not only is this a weekly gap, I do believe this is also a daily gap, and we'll look at the daily chart here in just a second as well. So the weekly has come back into a balance area and now gone one time framing down. All right. So last week we had an outside week down, meaning we took out the previous week's high and the previous week's low. So outside week down, putting us into, you can call it a 2 or a 3 month or a 3 week balance. Nonetheless, whichever way you called it, the weekly is now down because we've also taken out last week's low and this week's low. So no matter how you see it, the weekly is down, one time framing down for this week. So sellers and bears alike want to see this continue to pull on back and maybe kind of test this area, retest this area that I'm about to highlight, where we had these several highs before we kind of broke out. So between the 53.30 level and the 53.80 level, so within a 50-point range, maybe we come back and kind of test in that area before we get another move back to the upside, right? But right now, sellers are in control as far as the weekly goes. So monthly's one time framing up pretty healthy, but with a nasty wick to the upside. Daily, or not the daily, the weekly is looking kind of ugly. Outside week down, continuation continues, getting good extension to the downside. Sellers are in control, but nonetheless, a healthy pullback, especially after we've been one time framing up for the last several weeks. I believe our last balance area was right in this area. We've been one time framing up since then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row. We've been one time framing up. 7 if you count last week, and then we rolled over, right? Came into a balance. So 6 weeks in a row, finally getting a little bit of a pullback. Much needed. Last time we did something of this nature, we had a pullback. Typically on the weekly chart, when we have a pullback of this measure, 1, 2, 3 weeks in a row. Last measured move was about, from the high to the low here, about 6.2%. So from the high to the low, if we go about another 6% or so, that'll pull us right around this 53, between that 53.30 and 53.80 area that I was discussing, and right around those highs, and that area that we broke out of prior to. So if we have a similar move to that, then that could be a measured move down right there. From this high to this low here, it was about a 2.83% move, and so far I believe we've exceeded that right around the 4% move. So there is still some potential on the downside, and that will continue until we stop the one time framing down. And in order for this to do that, we have to take out this week's high next week, right? Come next week, we'll have to take out this week's high, or have an inside week and take out that weekly high, right? So there's going to be a period of consolidation at some point. We just don't know when. We could continue to pull back and continue to have more of a liquidation, and in worst case scenario, have a pullback down to these lows here around the 5,000 level, which would be pretty significant loss in gains for the year there, as it would be a 12% pullback after having about a 20% run up. All right, now let's look at the daily. All right, so this is the daily within that weekly area, right? So you can see how the daily is kind of broken down. We're back below the 20 and testing the 50-day moving average. We pull up our daily balance. So we were in a period of balance here, right? We were in a period of balance, chopping around for several days. We had terrible volume, terrible range, just chopped around for quite some time. Then we finally one time frame up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row. Have a bit of balance here, one time frame up 1, 2, 3 days in a row, and then we come back into a balance, right? We one time frame down 1-2 days in a row, come back to balance. We're in a 3-day balance. And then so far today, we've come out of balance with a gap to the downside. And we are below the 20 and now testing the 50-day moving average. Now look at where that 50-day moving average is located. If I pull up my gaps highlighted area here, you can see the 50-day moving average is right above where the gap gets filled, right? We had a much larger gap. The gap was roughly from here to where the gap gets filled there. So that blue box that you're seeing on the screen, that's where the gap was. So far, we've eaten into that gap, taken back some of it, and right now we have just a little bit left to fill. That gap gets filled at 54, 54.50. So that weekly and daily gap both gets filled there. The next gap on the downside we have starts here at this low of 54.0850, and that gap gets filled here at 53.8625. So within that area that I was just discussing, if we were to have a bit of a more of a pullback on the downside, all right. So we have gaps on the downside and we have gaps on the upside. We've had 2 gaps on the downside. We gapped after setting an all-time high here that put us into a balance. We gapped down, one time frame down, came back into a balance, and then we gapped down again. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Right now, we're holding the 50-day moving average pretty well. As we pulled back into that gap area, could act as an area to get out of shorts if you've been short since this locale here. So say you shorted around 56.30s, you're in the money pretty good, right? You're in the money about 200 plus points. Time to start covering some of those shorts right around that 50-day moving average where you may find some buying pressure coming in this market. Volume decided to pick up a little bit as well on the way down, which is good. Volatility range stepping back up. We love to see it as traders. However, this does present a good opportunity, right? So after coming out of balance to the downside, testing our 50-day moving average, right? If we just look at our blank slate here, last time we pulled back to the 50-day moving average, it resulted in a nice 9% move to the upside, about 9.7% move to the upside. Look at here, we're back at the 50-day moving average, another 9.7% to the upside would put us right around that 6,000 mark, all right, or my end of year target. All right, if we pull up my end of year target here on the monthly, around that 59.50 level, right? So that would be a pretty significant level. Also, from the pullback, if we were to pull back 6%, I'd put us around our previous monthly balance high, which would be also a great opportunity to buy on this in this market. So what I'm presenting is an idea that I think I may take myself. Once again, this is not financial advice. This is just for fun, shits and gigs, and we're just looking at charts, right, guys? So last time we had a pullback here presented a really good opportunity to buy and get long and, you know, reap the benefits of being long over the last 2 months, right? Whenever we had this pullback here from the highs and we dipped below the 50-day moving average, it was about a 6% move. So if we have, like I said, a similar move here from the highs down to the lows, that would put us right around not only where this gap gets filled, right? Not only where that gap gets filled, but where our previous monthly balance high was located, back in that area, and would, you know, once again, in my opinion, result in a very, very good opportunity to get long. So maybe we put on a little bit of a risk here, right? If you're somebody who has, high risk tolerance, maybe put on some risk here around the 54.60s level, right? We put on some risk here, come down. We add a little bit more around the 53.85s levels, looking for some type of consolidation to come back in before a move higher, right? Or you just wait, you be patient, right? Let's see how we come in tomorrow. Do we fill the gap finally? Is that all we do? Do we continue to one time frame down, fill this gap? If we do so, maybe you wait until we come back into a balance on the daily. By that, I mean, we stop one time framing down. By that, I mean, we take out a previous daily high, right? Kind of like we did in this situation. Let me zoom in. If it will let me, it won't let me. It doesn't want me to teach. So right here, you can see we stop the one time framing up by taking out a low, right? And then we set lower lows and lower highs. We stop that by taking out a lower, or excuse me, we stop that by taking out a high, set higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. But now at this point, you're right. If you're buying here, thinking we're going to take out this high, you're mistaken, because we're also down on the weekly, right? You know, the weekly's down. The chances of us continuing to push lower are really good, right? So until you take out this high here at 56.61, there was no reason to really get long. Same thing applies here. There's no reason to get long until we find a reason, right? Until the market gives us a reason. So let this thing pull on back. Maybe we come into some type of consolidation today, or not today, but tomorrow. Come the end of the week, we come back into some type of consolidation by taking out a previous daily high. Maybe tomorrow we have an inside day. Come Friday, we take out that inside day's high, and then we come back into an initial 3-day balance. And at that point, if you want to get long against this low here and use that as your out, that wouldn't be a bad risk reward long. Me personally, I think I'm going to be taking a small position and a little starter. Put in a couple orders for the 600 calls. I think right here would be a good idea to get in. If it pulls back, obviously add a little bit more risk, maybe $50 to $150 on the trade, maybe even $200 on the trade, accumulate some contracts. And if worse comes to worse, we continue to pull back and buy by August 30th. If we're not near the highs or at the highs, obviously I read the market wrong. Obviously things changed, and obviously, you know, I don't lose a lot. I only lose $200, $150 to $200, right? It's not the end of the world. It's not fuck you money. It's none of that. You know, it's not like I'm throwing $10,000 into this thing and looking for it to go higher. So I think maybe this is presenting a good opportunity to get long. Maybe you wait, obviously, until we stop one time framing down on the daily and in the weekly if you want to be a little bit more on the safer side, but I am not that guy. I like risk, so I'll be looking to potentially get into these contracts sooner rather than later. Obviously, get in a little bit here, scale in here at these prices, and then I think my hard stop, my absolute hard stop would be $0 because we risk it all, baby. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoy the video. Thanks for stopping by. That is going to be all we review today. I will start updating videos about, we're going to try doing 2 times a week. We'll look at the 30-minute charts and everything on Fridays potentially, and then come in Monday. We'll just we'll do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll try to do 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, come in, update the charts, give you guys some destinations and some ideas, as well as kind of refreshing my brain. Thanks for stopping by. If you did like the video, please leave a like down below. If you got a good idea of or sense of things, leave a comment down below. Help a brother out. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you.